Welcome to AMIcast, podcast about Amiga computers. I'm your host, Krzysztof Radzikowski, but call me Krzysztof or Radzik.
Sub conversations.
We're wasting good material for an interview.
Yeah, let's do this.
We need to stop chatting.
Okay, so let's start it officially now. Okay, so I will start it in 3, 2, 1. So, hi to everyone and to everybody and to my guests. This is AMIcast episode 17, as I think, 17. And I have the Guru Meditation on the other side of mic. So, hello, guys.
Cześć, Krzysztof.
Hello.
Cześć. So now we switch again to English.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
I'm just showing off because I know a couple of Polish words, but I'm just a poser. I don't really know how to speak Polish.
I'm not even going to try because I'd probably just mispronounce it anyway.
There's no problem, but it's always a krupnik. So you are after your streaming a few minutes ago, or something like this.
We're doing this interview right after a 4-hour stream on our YouTube channel. We just, we're very fortunate. We have, at one point recently, we crossed 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. And we said, hey, you know what? 1,000 subscribers, Amiga 1000. Anthony has an amazing collection of Amiga 1000s and Amiga 1000 peripherals. Let's just hang out with some of our viewers and show them Anthony's collection.
Yeah, it gives me an opportunity to go through my stuff and get it out and set it up and kind of remember why I love this stuff so much. But
the streaming is on YouTube as well, or it will be, so we can put the link on description of podcast.
Cool. Yeah, the link for our live channel is always youtube.com/c/the Guru Meditation. So whenever we're live, you can go to that link. But then after we do a live show, it gets archived with its own unique URL. So I'm not sure what the URL is yet of our 1000 for 1000 show, but I'm sure we'll find it and you can post it. Live shows are obviously they're always best when they're live because you have chat. Yeah. And you can talk to us, and
we try to reply to you, but
try to reply when we can.
when we can, it's hard. It's hard when you're doing a live stream to actually be able to also follow chat while you're doing other things. You're working with the camera, which is usually Bill's job, not mine, because he saw my not too steady cam on the shots in the barn when Bill was climbing up to retrieve things. But also I'll be, you're looking at the Amiga, you're throwing a disc in. You just can't always follow it, but it's still when you look over, we kind of try to grab some stuff there. The live stream is kind of neat because you have this chat going on. It's not like just posting a video, but later on people can still watch and enjoy the video and comment on it. We try to go in and kind of respond to comments and chat with people.
For sure, yeah, and the live chat is cool because there's other Amiga users hanging out in chat, and you get to meet new friends that way. And there's some really cool sub conversations that happen in the chat while we're making fools of ourselves.
Yeah, it's I must try it sooner or later somehow. But maybe now I will ask you something because we started about the YouTube. So I have some questions prepared by your friend. So this means the Konrad Kostecki,
Kokos.
Yeah.
Coconuts.
Well, will he still be our friend after you ask the questions?
Yeah. I think we will make the mix from question for this 2 pack of questions because he put a lot of this and I think this is too much.
Sure. It's the show. You're the boss.
We just streamed for how long?
We just went for 4 hours.
I don't think any number of questions is too much. We could be here for another 4.
Okay, so I think I will start with the question number 4. So we jump now because we were talking about the YouTube. So why the Guru meditation and what is it, and what are doing in Amiga world?
Oh, well, it's funny because Anthony and I have been buddies since 1987, and that's back when we both got our Amiga 500s.
You were probably earlier than me because you were already in the users group. I bought my 500, and then I think a little bit later I started going to the local users group, and you were already there, I'm pretty sure.
Right, well, it was 87, 88, around there.
So it was right in the... We probably bought our machines within a few months of each other.
Right, and so, back before the internet was popular, there were user groups, like local user groups that you could go to and hang out with other Amiga users and share your ideas, show what you've been doing with your Amiga. And we met once a month.
Right,
and that's where
it was at an Amiga store. And the only way to get information was either somebody you knew was doing it, someone bought whatever the new thing was, or through magazines that you would pick up when you went to the meeting.
Right, and every month there would be a demonstration. So, for example, there would be a demonstration about Deluxe Paint, or a demonstration about AdPro, or a demonstration about bars and pipes if someone was good at music. And I was actually the president of this user group, so I organized when we would meet and who was going to demonstrate what. And I used to do a lot of demonstrations myself. And Anthony also did a lot of demonstrations for the club. And our YouTube channel is just kind of growing out of this user group.
Well, I would say we kind of, as Amiga Commodore and Amiga waned, and went off to college, go off to get a job, this stuff kind of got put aside. It's kind of like a resurgence and a continuation of that is, let's go do this thing. Let's kind of do the stuff we used to do, and we don't have that. We still do meet as a users group, but a lot of the guys, it's more just a meeting of friends now, because a lot of those guys don't even have Amigas anymore, but we met through the Amiga, so they still come up and we chat about whatever, maybe a new Android thing, maybe a new Windows thing. Sorry, I said the W word. But it's like, so let's do this. Let's sort of almost continue the what we used to do at the users group and just throw it up on YouTube.
Yeah. So now, thanks to YouTube, we can do an Amiga demo and not just share it with a handful of people at an Amiga user group meeting, but we can share it with everyone who's got an internet connection. So that was what attracted us, and we're also like big fans of podcasts. So we used to listen to a podcast called The Widget, and they were
like one of the first.
Yeah, they were awesome. And unfortunately, and The Widget, they were just a couple of regular guys who used their computer, and we just really responded to them. And unfortunately, their podcast ended. And when their podcast ended, we were like, hey, well, why don't we do something? And I was, bouncing around on YouTube, and I saw like Dan Wood's YouTube channel, and it was amazing. And I saw Ravi's YouTube channel, and it was amazing. And I was like, you know what? This is exactly what we've been doing since 1987. Let's just keep doing it and throwing it up on YouTube, and maybe someone will pay attention to it.
And amazingly, tons of people have paid attention to it. Over 1,000.
In Amiga world is, I think, very successful. To have the 1,000 subs is not so easy.
Well, and I think the biggest video we have is 11,000.
No, I think Dave Haney's video is probably the most popular one. But yeah, the one when I went to Poland to AmiPart is also very successful. Yeah. But you know what? At the end of the day, we do it because it's a lot of fun for us. And it's all about quality, not quantity. And I know hopefully we'll get a lot more subscribers, but we don't really care how many subscribers we have. We just want to meet other cool Amiga users and make new friends, and that's the whole reason why we started it. And it doesn't matter if we have 300 or 3,000, as long as we're making new friends and getting inspired to use our Amiga. That's the only reason why we do this.
Right. A recent 1000, basically showcasing the Amiga 1000 in a live feed for 1,000 subscribers might imply that we keep an eye on it, but in truth, and I think like we even said, in that is basically it's really we're just using it as an excuse. We do it anyway.
Yeah, this is stuff we would do this anyway, and like I said, we don't really care how many subscribers we have, but at the end of the day, like we do put a lot of work into the videos, so you want someone to listen. Right. Like if no one was watching, then it would be like, all right, well, we're gonna do this anyway. We're just not gonna put it on YouTube anymore. But fortunately, a lot of people have gotten, they've given us very positive responses, and so we're going to keep doing it, and it's nice to have such positive responses to our videos, because we do put quite a bit of work into them.
Yeah, it's very good quality, and the post-production, and I don't know, it's every video looks good, so this is very nice, and this is I think it's not so popular again in Amiga work to make the more professional way than the from the shaky camera or something.
Yeah, well, that's we have a little bit of an advantage there, because I make video for a living. I'm a professional cinematographer. I went to NYU Film School, and I'm lucky to have some really nice equipment, and I've studied the art of filmmaking and cinematography, and that is my real passion. And I'm combining two passions: my love for filmmaking and my love for Amiga into one channel. So that's why the quality is a little bit better than your average YouTube video, because I've studied cinematography for over 20 years now, and I'm lucky enough to be successful at it, so I can afford some pretty nice equipment and use the equipment to shoot our Amigas.
Yeah, and you can see the difference when you see the one video that I shot.
Anthony went rogue this month and made his own video, and it was a very beautiful video, which is another thing to consider. Is like the quality is extremely important, but the material is the most important part. Right. If you have something interesting to say and you have some good information, that's the most important.
And you present it in a way that makes it interesting or entertaining. I think, and that's something that you can't work with someone who's a professional at it and not obtain some learning from them on like what makes something a little bit better. Chances are if I tried to do that video 4 years ago, it would not have been anywhere near as good as it was, and half of the issues with it are just basically not having like the level of equipment and not having done it before. I threw something together just because I received something in the mail, but I think it's just something that people might be interested in. Let me throw some wacky stuff in there. Let me throw a little story on top of it. And main thing is just unboxing. I mean, an unboxing isn't really all that interesting, but an unboxing with a little story behind it, a little goofiness, a flag that was on top of Mount Everest behind it. Now it's got a little something to it, a little meat on the bone.
Yeah, that's the thing that's cool, is because I love filmmaking, I love telling stories. Anthony and I make a great team because I have the video production background, and Anthony he's an IT manager, and he has the incredible Amiga background and Amiga collection. So there's a lot of material to draw on.
Very nice. To make it clear, but I think it's clear now. So your YouTube channel, so this YouTube channel is extension of the Westchester Amiga user group, yeah?
Exactly. Yes, it's the Guru Meditation is an extension of the Westchester Amiga user group. Anthony and I are co-presidents of the Westchester Amiga user group, and the things that we showcase on the YouTube channel are also things that we do at our local Amiga user group meetings. But the exception is on YouTube. We edit the videos and present them to anyone on YouTube, whereas at the user group meeting, we can only present to whoever shows up at the meeting.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And maybe now the first standard questions that should be, so your first computer and today, what is happening, which Amiga are you using, and so on.
My first computer was an Atari 800, and I still have it to this day, and it is one of my favorite machines ever. Back then, I got the computer in the early 1980s. I was born in 1975, so I was very young and very lucky to have such a nice computer. Little did I know that Jay Miner, who's the father of the Amiga, designed the Antic chip, which is in the Atari 800. So I was sort of attracted to him and his designs very, very early on without knowing exactly what was going on behind the scenes. So Atari 800 was my first computer, and the computer that I use now, the Amiga I use now is an Amiga 1200. Because I think it's the most versatile in 2016. It's got the PC MCIA port, so I can transfer files from my PC over to the Amiga very easily. In-division AGA board, so I can hook it up to a LCD monitor. And my regular computer that I use day to day is just a simple MacBook Pro.
Okay.
For me, my first computer, after having an Atari 2600, it was called a video computer system, VCS, was not a computer. I convinced my parents to buy me a Commodore 64, and then I had a 128, and then I saw the Amiga. It amazed me. So the first Amiga I picked up at that point was the 500, because when I saw the Amiga, the 1000 had been out for a while. It was an expensive machine. I didn't really follow it because I didn't have one. But then a friend of mine had bought one. And when I saw him again and he told me, I have this great machine, you got to check it out. I was like, wow, I have to get this. This is amazing. And he's like, well, there's new machines coming out real soon. You want to get one of those. And I picked up the 500 when I saved up enough money. I mean, this was back when I was at college. So basically what I did was I had a job only during the summers. So between what I made over the summer and my parents would give me money for food, I just would not spend it on food. I would save it, and I saved up for my 500. So I bought a 500 without RAM expansion, without a second floppy drive. The very next thing I bought was a floppy drive. Then I bought the 501 RAM expansion, and I was hooked from that moment. It was everything that hooked me on the Commodore 64 and more, because you had a real operating system. You could fiddle with things, you could customize things. It was just amazing. And I do the only Macs that I own, I basically picked up mostly to own like a Mac 512 and a Mac SE, which would have been direct competition with the 1000, just figuring we can eventually, and we did that. We had that one picture where we have the Amiga between the Mac and the Atari ST. They were all contemporaries. They're all 68,000 machines. But the only other Mac I own is a Morphos. It's a PowerBook, the G4 PowerBook to run Morphos. But other than that, I have a Windows laptop. It's a new Asus Strix with the NVIDIA 1070 graphics card in it.
Okay, so now I can maybe, because somehow somebody of you, so probably Anthony, you are using not only classic Amiga, I understand, yeah?
Yep. I think Bill, he only has classic Amigas. I have a Morphos machine, and I also have Amiga OS 4.1 running WinUAE.
Yeah, I have for me, it's a mixture of things. Like I love Amiga, and nostalgia is obviously a big part of it. So I love the classic Amigas. However, next generation or new generation Amigas are something that I'm very interested in, and I would like to get more involved in, and it's definitely on my to-do list, so to speak. And I've booted up MorphOS, and I've also I've been a beta tester for FriendUp, David Pleasant's new operating system. I haven't played around much with Amiga OS 4. But it's something that I'm definitely interested in. I always just gravitate towards the classic Amigas because that brings back all the great memories for me. And I as an artist, I love the fact that it's limited. Like, with a modern computer, you can do pretty much anything you want. Like, anything you imagine, you can create on the screen. But with classic Amiga, you have certain restrictions and limitations. You can say, okay, I'm going to make this photo in ham mode, and I'm limited to 4,096 colors. And, back then I was always trying to push the envelope and use the latest technology. But, now that I've gone to film school and photography school, I want to take like what I've learned and see, like, okay, if I knew this back then, what could I do with the Amiga? So that's kind of like the most exciting thing for me using Amiga right now. But, just from a technical standpoint, I would love to use some more Amiga OS 4.1 stuff, and I know they're coming out with a new Amiga Power PC that runs Amiga OS 4.1, and it's something I'm really interested in. I know it's going to be quite expensive, but yes, unfortunately, but it's a hobbyist tool, it's a toy, so at this point, so it's something that I would certainly like to try out. But my heart is with the classic Amigas.
Yeah, I think there was a long time after Commodore went under, and they were purchased by Escom, and you saw they were working on this new machine, the Walker. Looked kind of wacky, but okay, at least someone's picked up Amiga, and it may continue. And then they go out of business, and then Gateway picks them up, and it's like, oh, okay, maybe it'll continue. I think, for the most part, at this point, I think most of us who are realistic, we kind of realize that probably it's not going to become as big as it was even when Commodore was around. Which I think is why I've gone back. Like I have a Morphos machine. I can't say I use it that much, but using the old machine is always there. It's like it's almost like coming home after a long business trip.
Okay, I understand, but at the end of all, I'm waiting for the X5000 as well. I'm using the NG, the 4.1, so it's nice to, if you have some cash to buy it, I think maybe this is the good option, because it's something like you can connect everything together, the past and let's hope the future, somehow.
Agreed.
Yeah, but okay, so this is the about your computers, your stuff. I think it should be enough. So now I could ask about how the retro scene and the Amiga scene and so on looks like in USA, because everybody knows this. The Europe is the most popular Amiga or this stuff era. Yeah, you know what I mean. So this is the Germany, UK, now Poland, and France, Italy. So Europe.
I think there's no way to compare the scene here in the US with the European scene as far as Amiga goes. I mean, over in Europe, they just take it to a whole nother level. Like Amiga is actually quite popular there. Here in the USA, retro scene is actually like, it's pretty strong, but it's not so much Amiga. I would say when you think of retro, the first thing people think of is Super Nintendo or NES.
Yeah.
That's the most popular thing here in the States. And also arcades. Like here in New York, we have an amazing place called Barcade. They have multiple locations, and it's an arcade and craft beer. And they have all the classic arcade machines from, everything from Pong to Space Invaders to Pac-Man. All the way up to the more modern stuff. Well, modern meaning like Mortal Kombat 2 and Street Fighter 2. But so I think like arcade and Nintendo is very popular here as far as retro goes in the United States. But not so much Amiga.
Amiga specific or even Commodore specific yet.
Yeah, the Commodore 64. People know the Commodore 64 here, and a lot of people had them. Obviously it's the best-selling computer of all time, but it's not the same as Nintendo or even like the original PlayStation. That's considered retro. Like people love the original PlayStation here. But Amiga is it's a small, tight-knit community, and general public does not even know what Amiga is. They've heard of the Commodore 64, but they really don't know much about Amiga here except for this tight-knit Amiga community.
Yeah, another friend of mine and I would go down to Reading, Pennsylvania, where they had, it started out, I don't remember the name of the show when it first started out, but it became a show called Too Many Games, which was basically a retro gaming show. And he would set up a table of the Commodore 8-bits, and I'd set up a table of Amigas. And I don't think anyone at the show knew what they were. It was all Atari, Atari VCS, ColecoVision, Nintendo, Sega. Those are huge. And the whole retro scene here is pretty much centered around video games, like Bill said, arcade games,
consoles.
I think even more is the consoles. I would actually have people come up, and they would actually be amazed by the games on the Amiga. Like, why didn't I ever hear of this machine? And then on the flip side, you have people now, they're into older games, but because they're into older games, really with Nintendo, they don't know how to hold a joystick. It's all a D-pad. They have no idea what they would pick up the joystick and like how do I use this? Because they're used to just pressing the four direction buttons. It's vastly different over here than over in Europe. Over in Europe, it just amazes me also how many younger people are into older machines that they probably didn't use as a kid. I don't imagine they grew up where the Amiga was the main computer in the household. It was probably some kind of Windows machine. It just seems to me like they've come into it. It's almost like a by choice. Like, I've seen this machine, I've seen other people who are into it. That's a really cool scene. I want to get into that. I'd love to hear from some of those people and find out exactly how they got into the Amiga, because, it seems pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, this as well depends, because, for example, in Poland, the Amiga was in the 90s or something like 90s plus, so that's why this was the chance that the Amiga was the main computer in at home. So, but in Germany it was different. This is true. But other funny thing, because the whole story of Amiga is connected with USA, because there was the office, there was the Dave Haney, RJ, and the all I will say gods of Amiga, and probably you could see the whole story, how it's working.
It's so funny because we're kind of downplaying USA and how it's just not popular here like it was in Europe. But yeah, look, the Amiga was made in the USA and it was made by American guys. So can't lose sight of that. And Amiga's world headquarters is 2 hours away from New York City, where we live, in Westchester, Pennsylvania. Yeah. And a lot of those engineers are still in that area. And when we go do our exhibits at the Vintage Computer Festival each year. That is about an hour from Commodore's world headquarters. And, lots of Commodore engineers still show up at that show, like Bill Hurd from the Commodore 8-bit days. And as you might have seen on our YouTube channel, Anthony got surprised by Greg Berlin, who was a designer of the Amiga 3000 and 4000. We've gotten to know Dave Haney really well, designer of the Amiga 3000 and other, obviously, Amigas. So interesting that a lot of, the Amiga engineers were American guys, but the American public really just didn't respond to it like the Europeans did.
Well, I think also Americans, I think we have a lot of we sort of, I think, embraced as a culture the sort of throwaway. Something is old, it's not as useful anymore, I want something more useful. And like I said on our live stream, you see it outside the Apple stores every time a new phone's released. A lot of people on that line got a new phone last year, and now there's another new phone, and they're going to get another one just because it's new, and I want the new one. And I don't know. I don't think it's good for us or the world to constantly be needing something new, not because you need it. It just seems to me like if you can do something with something that you already have, you don't necessarily need to spend that, and to, there's resources that have come out of the world to create that. It just seems very wasteful to me.
Yeah, I mean, I like to push the boundaries, and I'm very excited about the latest technology, and, can we get more frame rates out of this game? I'm all for that, but I also don't want to forget about something that was amazing 1 year ago. I love history, and I love to understand where things came from, and if something has a good design, like it has a good design, period. It doesn't need to be the latest and greatest. Like, for example, Sensible Soccer. It's got great gameplay. It's still a great game to this day, and people still play it to this day because the gameplay is outstanding. It doesn't need the latest graphics. It's a brilliant game.
One question, because I know the soccer, so it's not popular in USA at all, I think, but football, American football, is popular. Have you got some game like this for Amiga? Of course, like Sensible Soccer, but Sensible Football.
Not really. I mean, the one that because I grew up playing American football and American baseball, and the one that I really loved was TV Sports Football by Cinemaware. It was the closest thing to like watching a real football game, and you could make your own team, and it had the announcer. His name was Don Badden, and there's a famous announcer here named John Madden, who is a famous football coach. So they tried to make it as realistic as possible without actually getting the rights. So TV Sports Football was like my favorite American football game on the Amiga. But yeah, American football is certainly much more popular here than soccer. And these days, people play Madden. Yeah. Everyone loves Madden, NFL. Although FIFA is popular here too. But back in the day, I would say definitely. I don't know how popular TV Sports Football was, but that was my game of choice. Even though I did love Sensible Soccer, and I'm not a huge soccer fan, but I enjoy the game, and playing Sensible Soccer is just tons of fun. It's an awesome game. It reminds me of Speedball. It reminds me very much of Speedball, which is like a futuristic Sensible Soccer.
Exactly, Speedball is very nice, and at the end of all Sensible software games like Cannon Fodder or even Sensible Golf, they are now nice. They are nice.
Great gameplay. Yeah.
Okay, so now what I can ask? I can ask about maybe Poland now, because you, Bill, were in Amiga, AmiPart, in Amiga party. I call it AmiPart in Poland. So to the guys outside from Poland, so for the whole world, you can say the few words besides of Krupnik, of course.
Sure. Well,
yeah, Krupnik is mine.
Yes, Anthony knows the Krupnik. So my wife is from Poland. She's from Lublin. She was born and raised in Lublin, Poland, and she came to New York when she was 23 years old. And I've been going to Poland every year since about year 2000. And it's funny, like one day I was sitting in my in-laws' apartment in Lublin, and I was just looking through our Google Plus page, and a video popped up in the feed, and it was an Amiga party. I was like, oh wow, like this looks like a fun party. It's Amiga, and these guys look cool. And then I did a little, research into it, and I was like, oh, these are actually Polish guys throwing the party. I didn't know who they were, but they were Polish Amiga users throwing the party. So I left a comment on the video, and they're like, yeah, we have this party every year, and we're in Helm, which is a city, pretty far in Eastern Europe, pretty close to the Ukraine border. And I looked on the map where it was, and I was like, oh wow, that's only an hour from Lublin, where my wife's family is from. And I was like, maybe there's a chance that I can come to one of these parties. So they posted a video earlier this year in 2016. And I was like, man, I really want to go to one of these parties. So I went to my wife and I was like, hey, when we go visit your family this year? And she was like, what? I'm like, yeah, let's go visit your family. and
she suspected nothing.
Yeah.
Of course.
She knew something was up. And I was like, yeah, there's these Polish Amiga users, and they have this amazing party an hour away from Lublin and Helm. And, maybe we can plan the trip to visit your mom and your dad around this party. And she's like, yeah, that sounds great. It sounds like a great time. So that's exactly what we did. So we went to visit her family in August, and we had about 2 weeks leading up to AmiParty, and then AmiParty was on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And my wife and her mom and her dad drove me an hour outside of the city and dropped me off in this industrial park, in this parking lot in Helm. And I just went in and met the guys. It was always my dream to go to a European Amiga party, because we don't have any Amiga parties here in the United States. Every Amiga event that I've ever been to has been more of a trade show. But in Europe, you guys have parties. You guys have a great time, and it's a little more informal. You hang out, and everyone's showing each other what they did with their Amigas. And incredibly, some of the guys at this party even make their own hardware, which was shocking. You had Crashin, who was on the Morph OS development team, and he was showing me, his MIDI board and his SD. His SD board, his IDE to SD board, and then we had guys who were developing for the Commodore 64 with the UK 1541, and I was just blown away. Wow, these guys aren't just Amiga users; they're Amiga creators, and all that, and they party. So I had the time of my life. It was, and they were just super welcoming, and they couldn't believe that someone from New York actually went out to their party. It didn't seem that strange to me, but to them they're like, wow, someone from New York actually came out to our party. And I'm like, yeah, well, you guys have a great party. Why wouldn't I want to come? And they were the nicest guys and the most welcoming guys that I could imagine. It literally took within minutes. I felt like I've known them forever. It was awesome.
Seems like a great excuse to go to Poland to me. I'm on board for next time.
Of course, you should. And there's other parties as well. 2-3 weeks ago, I was on RetroComp in Gdańsk, and it was very nice as well. So you have the options to choose. There are Pixel Heaven. But this is not typical Amiga party, but there is a lot of them, and the demo scene parties, they are as well here and in Germany and in, I think, Sweden. So the heaven.
Yeah, you have D-Crunch. I know Gumboy was at the party. He's one of the organizers of D-Crunch. And then another gentleman from Lublin is involved in Riverwash. That looks like an amazing party.
I'm a little worried about the demo scene parties, because I think they might I don't know how they look upon someone who just uses an Amiga, plays games, and futzes around on it. I don't program. These guys can run rings around me. I'm a little.
It's just mind-boggling. The demo scene here in the United States is just not as popular as it is in Europe. It's just a different mindset, I guess. To me, demo scene reminds me of like going to like a techno nightclub, and
That's
it's just.
what I mean. I have a feeling they'd realize like. He's not really one of us. He just uses the machine. He doesn't program it.
No, it's so funny because when you go there, they're the coolest guys ever. They're like the most welcoming, coolest guys ever. But what the demo scene guys do is just mind-boggling because it's very much like what I do for a living, cinematography. It's art and technology coming together. You have these amazing musicians, these amazing graphic artists, and these amazing programmers pushing the machine to do things that you could never imagine it could do. It's just like the ultimate combination of art and technology coming together, and it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I know after Commodore went under, and you still had AmiNet, and the internet was kind of coming up. You had faster modems. It became like sort of a regular thing to hop on and download a few of the latest demos from Europe over here. And just like, because you would throw it on your Amiga 1200. I kind of dodged that question. I realized I never answered that little part of the question, was what was my main Amiga now? And that would definitely, much like Bill, that would be the 1200. Because of the AGA, you would see these people throwing these amazing graphics with the sound and things just flying around on the screen. You were like I've owned this machine for this many years, and I'm amazed that I never realized it could do that. And these guys over in Europe, they're just they're like symphony conductors, making the machine do these amazing things.
And the other thing about the demo scene that really hit me hard when I went to AmiParty is, I've seen lots of demo scene demos on YouTube, and they're absolutely brilliant. But when you see the demo play on an actual Amiga, it's just a completely different experience. Right. It really, like when you see it on YouTube, you're a little bit separated from it because you can see lots of amazing videos on YouTube and it kind of blends in. But when you sit down at a real Amiga with a CRT monitor and you see this amazing demo come up, it just absolutely blows your mind, and it really connects you and makes you appreciate exactly like what's going on.
Maybe that's why the demo scene 10, 20 years ago was so popular, and there was always the saying the Amiga rules on this party. So that's why, maybe because it was breakthrough or something like MTV for computers. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's also the whole scene that goes with it, and the parties. We don't party like you guys do. No, you guys have the best parties.
Yeah, you are always welcome. Yeah.
I'll be there. I'm definitely coming back.
Okay, so maybe now let's jump from Poland to the movie Viva Amiga. So I think there is option that you already have seen this, yeah?
That's an unsubstantiated rumor. I will neither confirm nor deny.
No, it's funny. We are involved in Viva Amiga, and I can tell you a little bit about that background. It's funny because once, I sort of rediscovered the Amiga because I was a hardcore Amiga user from 1987 to 1996, and then I went to film school, and I didn't forget about the Amiga, but I didn't use it as much.
Yeah, you had other things to do.
I had other things to do. I was using Final Cut Pro to edit my videos on a Mac. So my Amiga was there, but it was just sort of in the background. And then more recently, within the past 5 years, I was like, oh man, I gotta get my Amiga out again because that's a really special computer. And I went onto Google, and I was wondering, hey, has anyone ever made a documentary about the Amiga? So I just Googled Commodore Amiga documentary.
And the funny part is, he's doing all of this. He could have just asked me, because I had actually backed the Kickstarter for Viva Amiga.
Yeah, Viva Amiga was a Kickstarter, which I didn't even know about. But I Googled Viva Amiga documentary, and Viva Amiga popped up, and I saw that it was a Kickstarter, and the Kickstarter was long over, and it looked like the film had been finished. But I was like, you know what? You just never know. Let me send a message to this guy, Zach Weddington, who was doing the film. And I was like, I'm a cinematographer and a huge Amiga fan. And if you need any help with your movie, man, I would just absolutely love to help out. And he responded. And he was like, hey, you know what? Like, the movie's not done yet, and I could definitely use some help. There's a lot of stuff I need to get across the finish line. So I was like, sign me up. Like, I would absolutely love to help. So we, in the grand scheme of things, it's Zach's film, and he did 99.9999% of it. But in the 11th hour, Anthony and I came in, and we were able to shoot some scenes for the movie for him. And Zach has become a really good friend of ours, and he's joined our Westchester Amiga user group. He's come to my house, and we've had our own
video games with him. We've ate brats with him.
Yeah, so Zach has become a very close friend of ours, and we wish him and his film all the best. And Viva is it's a great Amiga documentary. We've seen it, and I know it is with a distribution company now, and I'm not that close to the film, so I don't know exactly when it's coming out, but I know it will be out soon. I know a lot of Amiga users have been anxiously awaiting for many years, and
just 2 more weeks.
Yeah, and it's always like, oh, it's almost out. But he's definitely run into some serious like roadblocks, which he has now overcome. And hopefully it'll be out soon. We want to see it come out as soon as possible. As much as all the other Amiga users and everyone who's spent money on it and backed it on Kickstarter. But from what Zach tells us, it'll be out very soon.
Yeah, it's interesting because although like I said, I backed the Kickstarter pretty early because I saw, and I just like with the Commodore book, Company on the Edge. I thought, you always see IBM, you always see Apple, IBM, Apple, Microsoft, IBM, Apple, and you never see stuff from Commodore. And it was like, wow, there's this guy wrote a book from Commodore, and so I pick up that book, and this guy's doing a documentary on Amiga. I want to back that, and I kind of put those on the back burner. I kind of ignore it. Because I know the way Kickstarter works, you pay your money, and hopefully the person finishes it. And I know a lot of people get a little uptight, so I was kind of glad that I'm not that kind of person, got all uptight, and because I've actually met Zach. I'm not one of those people who sent him emails like, where's my damn video? It's the work he's done. It's not an easy subject because there's so little out there. There's not a lot of things you can grab from, and there's not a lot a lot of people don't know it because it's not as big a story. It hasn't been put out as much. I mean, you watch. That's why I absolutely love *Halt and Catch Fire*. That whoever, I know someone who's working on that show has got to love Commodore and the Amiga, because you see Commodore 64s and you see Amiga 1000s. It's like, oh, cool, someone gets it, and Zach gets it. The guy definitely gets it. What he's putting together is just beautiful, and I can't wait till it's in everyone's hands and all the fans get to see it.
Yeah, I know it played at Amiga 30 in California. I believe it played at Amiga 30 in Amsterdam.
Yeah, there was some fragment here.
Yeah, and I know Dave Needle saw it, unfortunately, right before he passed away. But it was. I know Zach was very moved by that. That Dave's response was really stellar, and so it's very nice to have a great Amiga documentary, as well as. We also love Bedrooms to Billions. That movie is absolutely amazing. I absolutely love that movie. I've watched it like 10 times.
And I can't wait. I can't wait till I bought the first book by Brian Bagnall, and now that he's broken it up into 2 volumes, the first volume's out already, and it seemed like the second volume that would actually be about Amiga kind of almost vanished, and then it reappeared as a Kickstarter, because I actually pre-ordered it when it was supposed to originally come out. I'm glad to see that that's moving, because I think in a book you could delve a lot deeper than you can in a documentary. You have to figure out what you have a certain amount of time, you have a certain amount of material, you have to figure out what you're going to put in. With a book, I think you're a lot freer to put a lot more information. And there's also and I'm drawing a blank on the name, but there's that book from the same people, the same publisher who did Racing the Beam on the Atari VCS. It's oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it now, but it's a book that delves more into how the machine functions. I mean, if you ever want to, someone who's not that familiar with the Amiga, I wish I could remember the name of it. But there's a great book.
Service manual.
No. If it dawns on me at some point, I've had a little too much of the Krupnik. It's not dawning on me, but it was a very inventive name. I think MIT Press did Racing the Beam about the VCS, and there was a book about the Amiga, which delves deeper into like how the hardware works, why the graphics work the way they do, which is a really great book. I picked that up, and it's just really interesting. And it's good to see all this resurgence in Amiga. I mean, we got what we do, what you do, this book, the documentary, the Bedrooms to Billions. You got guys doing an Amiga podcast out of West Virginia in the U.S. It's
Retro Hour. Not
Amigos.
Yeah. Amigos, yes, Amigos.
Amigos. It's just amazing to see. It's like a something that's kind of went down underground for a little while, and now we realize that the Earth hasn't been completely wiped away, and we can come out of the bunker back into the light of the sun.
So when we're talking about the sun, this means future. What do you think about the possible future for the Amiga? Because now we have of course the NG Amigas, the official one, not official one, NG, and the new something like this new technology. FPGA, so the Vampire is very now hot stuff. And now even yesterday I think Hyperion released the updated Amiga OS 3.1. So what do you think about the future and how it will be, could look like, or what you would like to see in the future?
Man, that's a tough one. It's almost like there's two different halves in a way. Like when you talk about Vampire 2 and the Amiga 600, that's something that enhances the classic Amigas, right? And then you have like Hyperion, and you have Amiga OS 4.1 that looks towards the future. I just like everything Amiga, and the thing I like about Amiga is that it's different. I'm an artsy guy. I like to think different. Like even though Apple coined that term, they don't actually promote thinking differently. But I like to be, we're all a little weird. We're all off the beaten path just a little bit. So you don't have to be like Mac or PC. I love the idea of being able to have an alternative to Mac and PC and do something a little more unique and something that's a little more personal. So that's what excites me about like new generation Amiga, as far as like OS 4.1 or MorphOS or Aros goes. And then like I said, I'm really like more of a hardcore classic Amiga guy. So things like the Vampire are super exciting, where you can just take an Amiga 600, which definitely like was not one of the best Amigas, but turned it into an absolute beast. Again, it's something as fast as an 060. It's just super exciting to see people invent new hardware for this old system. It's absolutely incredible. Like it's everything from like Vampire to like, don't forget like Indivision AGA. That's a brilliant piece of hardware that can make the output of your Amiga just look absolutely beautiful. I'm just blown away by people's dedication to Amiga and the amount of like time and effort they put into such things as developing new hardware or new software. It's really something special.
Okay. And
I think, I guess I have a tough time. Like I like that someone's trying to do something new and modern with Amiga, but like I said, for a while there was a lot of hope, and we always hoped that ESCOM, that Gateway, would do something, and that was at a time when something could still, like Amiga, could still be as great. And kind of at this point, it's like it would be like a third phone. Android or iPhone, no one's really going to buy a third phone. No one's, I don't think, going to go into a computer store and see this Amiga thing and go, you know what, instead of a Windows or a Mac, I think I'll pick that up. So that's kind of on the one hand, I have that thought. On the other hand, I have the thought, like, the stuff for the classic machines, because these classic machines, like I think Dave Haney has said, is what's dead can never die. So I think it's almost good that the classic Amiga is dead, because it can't die now. People, they know that if you're into it, you're going to be into it till you're gone. So they can put out a Vampire, and you're going to be excited by it. It's not going to excite some new person who's never seen Amiga, but it is going to excite someone who's like, I have an Amiga, I'd love to get an accelerator. I look at what's on eBay for an old card that's almost 30 years old. It's $300. It's insane. I'm not going to spend that kind of money. But you have this brand new card that you know is going to work. It's modern hardware. It's modern components. You're going to get some life out of it. You can spend $300 for an accelerator for a classic Amiga, and a month later the capacitors go on it. If you don't have the knowledge, the electronics knowledge, that thing is dead. You spent $300 on sand. But if you buy a Vampire, that could last 30 years. It's like, well, I could spend that. I can justify spending that money, because for 30 years I'll have something that I can use and have a lot of fun with. I kind of dismays me in this community that people who try to do things a lot of times get a lot of negativity. I know when, because the Vampire was so popular, they had to raise the price, because the guy, like, I can't do this in my house. Like, too many people are buying it. I need to go and get someone to manufacture this for me. And that manufacturing means having to pay a company, so they have prices. I have to raise the price, and all of a sudden everyone is getting angry with him. $200 or whatever the price was raised to is still less than what you would pay for a 30-year-old, 20-year-old piece of hardware that doesn't do as much. Like, look at what you're getting. You're getting a modern thing. Like, I don't understand why everything everyone tries to do generates this like heated. And I think it unfortunately drives a lot of people who could do such amazing things out. It's unfortunate. I'd love to see people kind of take a step back, take a few deep breaths, and really look at it and go, I understand it. The money, you can probably buy something for a Mac that's a lot faster and more useful, but this is for an Amiga, and that just makes it more awesome.
Yeah, when you have a much smaller market share,
you have a smaller
like, you're
market,
going to pay more. Like, what can you do?
Much, you're gonna pay more. So you have to buy it because it's awesome, not because of how it compares to something else.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good point of view, I think.
I hope so.
Yeah, at the end of all, the Vampire is quite, whatever they change it now, it's still quite cheap. So compared to the rest.
Yeah, like what does a Blizzard PPC cost? I mean, that's going to cost you more than a Vampire.
Yeah.
3 times.
It's basically not something you can obtain. I mean, if probably for 600 you couldn't get it. So if a Vampire's going up to 250, that's still a bargain if it's what you're looking for. I understand you wish you could get it at the lower price, but it's still awesome. I'm keeping my eye on it. I'd love for them to come out with a 1200 version because I just think that machine is so versatile. But then, I'm kind of like I teeter because I go, the 600 is such a nice small machine. It creates a lot of back and forth in my own head. So I haven't jumped on it yet. But I just think it's awesome that people are doing that. That people are still, coming up with things. You don't see. I don't see as much. Atari ST was a contemporary of the Amiga, and I just don't see as much going on there as I see with the Amiga. Like 68,000 base max. You don't see new accelerators coming out for them. You see it for Amiga.
Yeah, I mean, the price isn't even that important. It's more about like the fact that people are actually doing it. It's incredible, and I give them so much credit for putting their time and efforts into it. It's really quite special.
Okay, this is very good for them. Okay, so now maybe the question like this: the favorite Amiga program and Amiga game now or before or in future? No, of course, but
Oh man, I have so many. All my favorite Amiga programs center on graphics and video. So I like Deluxe Paint. I'll say Deluxe Paint 3 because that was the first one that did animation. But nowadays I use D-Paint 5, AGA. I still love that program to this day. I love Art Department Professional. I've been doing an experiment lately where I take a photograph with my modern DSLR camera and convert it to Amiga ham mode, and thanks to AdPro, I'm able to do it. So I absolutely love AdPro, and I love DPaint. I would say those are my favorite two Amiga pieces of productivity software. Favorite game, I can boot up Lemmings anytime and have a great time. Lemmings, Walker, and Shadow of the Beast are the three that just hit me right off the bat.
Okay, thanks. And Anthony?
I'd have to say, I had a lot of fun, even though I never professionally did anything with it. I had a lot of fun playing with Turbo Silver, which is a 3D ray tracing program. Basically, at the time when I got into Amiga, the big program was oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank again. But there was this program that did 3D ray tracing. It was very expensive. And then you had this kind of little upstart company come out with this thing. First it was called Silver. That was called, when I got my machine, it was called Turbo Silver. It was one of the first programs I bought when I bought my Amiga. And I had a lot of fun with that over the years. I basically upgraded every version, Turbo Silver, then became Imagine. And that was it was like a trifecta of programs that I bought really early on, were the Turbo Silver, the Distant Suns for astronomy, and Vista Pro, were just three programs that I loved fiddling with back in the day. And later on, when AdPro came out, that became absolutely crucial. For converting and displaying pictures. I had a Memetics frame buffer, would allow me. I could create a picture in Vista Pro in full NTSC with million colors and output it to my Memetics frame buffer using AdPro. And see it. So first I'd see it on the Amiga screen in Amiga color modes, and then output it through the frame buffer and see it in full color. It was I thought that was just the bomb. And the other beauty of it was that the Memetics frame buffer card was so noisy that while I was displaying it on the TV down in the living room, you'd see a ghost of whatever landscape I was displaying, kind of moving across the screen on the family's television in the living room. That was always amused me. For games, I know the games that I've spent the most time on the Amiga. One of them was Settlers, and I could easily be playing that and end up looking up from the game and it being like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and not realizing that the time has gone that quickly. Populous 2 is another one, and Walker. Those are 3 games I think that factor high up for me.
Okay, very nice.
Oh, and I also liked there was a ham mode game really early on. Oh gosh, my poor memory. And if I had the disc in front of me,
I don't know which was, but I heard about one game, something about using this special Amiga possibilities.
Sculpt 3D was the 3. We received text information from an Amiga friend. It was Sculpt 3D was the expensive ray tracing program that I couldn't afford, so I got Turbo Silver set in. And the ham mode program, which I do have the disc in front of me, was Pioneer Plague. If you can look that one up, that's I always had a lot of fun playing that game.
Okay.
And that was a fairly early game using ham mode.
This was I don't know. This is the adventure or what was?
No, it's a shoot 'em up. Basically, the idea is this mechanical race is kind of taking over your planets. Your people are all trying to get on this arc to leave to go somewhere else, and you have to basically fend off. So you're basically flying around, and the mechanical things are building these rockets to shoot down the arc ship that's going to be leaving. So you have to destroy these rockets, and then the arc can leave to take your civilization somewhere else. So it's a lot of it's kind of an advancing game because it gets more and more difficult. They throw more things at you to try to these little fighter ships that attack you and try to keep you from killing the rockets that are being built.
Okay.
It's a lot of
maybe
fun.
I will try somehow, but I don't have time at the interval for this. But I have other interesting questions, I think, because of course Amiga in US as well was very popular in video production, and you are making the YouTube channel. So my question is, it is now possible to make some, of course not HD video, but some videos or the stuff for YouTube only on the Amiga, for example 2000 with the toaster card, or I don't know, the other special hardware.
Challenge accepted. No, it's something that I've always wanted to do. It's funny because a lot of people, when they remember back, they think of like, video and video toaster. But the video toaster was a video switcher, not a video editor. The video flyer was something that could actually edit video, and you could potentially use that to post something on YouTube. But the cool thing would be to do like a video toaster episode, like a live stream, right?
Well, I think that
that would be awesome.
The toaster and the flyer kind of went together, where the flyer was nonlinear editing, so you basically ingested your video and then you could edit the different clips together. I think the toaster was kind of, it was the switcher. When you actually did your wipes from one source to another.
You had live camera set up and you
Right.
could wipe from one to the other.
It's
funny because with the toaster, like the toaster was always the dream.
Oh yeah.
Like I wanted a toaster so bad back in the day, but I couldn't afford it. I mean, I was just a kid. So let me rephrase that. My dad couldn't afford it for me.
Toaster had everything. It had, like, if you wanted a genlock, even just to do titling for videos. I mean, it had that. It, like I said, I was drawn in by Turbo Silver and Sculpt 3D. Toaster came with Lightwave, and for the longest time you couldn't run Lightwave without. You had to have a toaster. You basically bought the toaster. Some people, they bought the toaster just to get Lightwave. So I was always like in awe, because I think Lightwave, even at the time, from Imagine to Lightwave. Lightwave was like a huge jump in the user interface and how much easier it made to create 3D graphics where you could just easily move things around with the mouse. The old programs were, a lot of, you were viewing not in 3D. So you're doing your 3D creation in 2D. You could see the shot from the front, side, top, but you didn't really have, you could see a 3D view of the wireframe, but you couldn't do anything in it. So if you moved something, you had to move it around in one of the 3 views and look at how it was affected in the 3D view. Lightwave, you could move it in the 3D view directly. It was like this huge jump. You were like, whoa. But then and I understand from the TV production standpoint, it was extremely cheap. From the I'm in college standpoint, it was extremely expensive.
But to answer your question, I mean, absolutely, you absolutely 100% could do a video all with an Amiga, and that's something that we need to do.
The beauty of it is I have a toaster. I actually have the toaster that the Knicks, which is a basketball team, they used to practice at my college, and they used a toaster when they were filming their practices. And the only reason I know is because a friend of mine who worked at the college after I graduated found a Toaster 4000 sitting in the garbage. And he grabbed it and he called me up. He said, "Oh, you're still into Amiga. Do you want this? It's an Amiga 4000 video toaster." So I was like, "Oh, heck yeah, of course." And when I got it home, its power supply fan had seized, so they threw it out. I got it up and working, and he even got the drives running, and I saw these frame stores of Nick's practice. They were on the basketball court. That's the only reason I know what it was used for. So I have a Toaster 4000. I also have an Amiga teleprompter, Smooth Talker. I mean, we could conceivably do an entire show using Amigas as the production. I also have for editing, I have a Casablanca. Which was from Draco, was based on Amiga, based on the Amiga operating system anyway, has none of the custom chips. So, I mean, we could conceivably shoot a whole video and edit.
The interesting thing, too, is, back then, I couldn't afford a toaster, but I had other things. I had toaster alternatives. So I had a Rock Gen, which was a gen lock that allowed me to put Amiga graphics over, NTSC composite video, and I had a chroma key, which allowed me to put up a blue screen and key out the backgrounds.
That's right. I forgot the toaster had that built in.
Yeah. So even though I didn't have a toaster, I had these other third-party devices that allowed me to do things that were almost as good as the toaster.
Well, if you think about the Memetics frame buffer, I mean, toaster is a board, it has 2 frame buffers on it. So a Memetics frame buffer, which is just one frame buffer, it can hold 1 NTSC frame, is like a little part of a toaster.
But I like your idea. I think we should definitely do a stream using Amiga only. It's actually very, very possible and actually not that difficult. Basically, because Anthony's got the toaster, I've got the cameras, and all we need to do is just take the composite video out and put it into my Mac and stream it.
Very nice, because this is interesting, and I like when somebody is trying to use the classic Amiga and as well, of course, NG to something like everyday use, not only playing the old games and 100 time again Super Frog here, but when you can do something new, you understand what I mean.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I was trying to do with the ham mode conversions, taking a modern photo and using Deluxe Paint and Ad Pro to manipulate a modern photo, just using the old hardware to create a new piece of art.
Exactly. So, for example, I personally love USB. So I have this in my 2600 here, and this is. Then I feel I can use this Amiga more up to date. I can put the stuff on pen drive, and then. So nice to update this to the limits, and to do something on this.
Yeah, that's how I use my 1200 with the PC MCIA. I have a compact flash to PC MCIA card, and I just pop that into the 1200, and I can transfer files from my PC or my Mac onto the compact flash card. Boom, just pop it into the compact flash to PC MCIA card, and I'm good to go. I can transfer the files right over to the 1200.
I think at one point it's kind of important to make it that you can use more modern equipment with the old Amiga. Because things like keyboards die, things like monitors. I mean, the monitors go. So I look for how can I still use my Amiga when all my Amiga mice don't work anymore. So it's cool that you got these little, and they're very inexpensive. You got these little devices you plug into the mouse port, and it has a USB or a PS2 connector on the outside, and you plug in a standard, current mouse into that, and the Amiga can use it just like a native mouse. I've seen, and I've picked up some adapters for keyboards. I've picked up, there's, of course, you can use Genlocks to get S-Video out. I know, I've heard of some things, and we've actually featured some things that you can use to get your Amiga connected to a more modern TV if your 1084 monitors go and you can't get them fixed, just because it gets to the point where if the machine works but you can't get anything into it and you can't get anything out of it, how are you going to use it is a real worry. So it's great when you can figure out how to get and how to make the machine useful, and how to do cool things with it. And I think that was one of the main reasons why I picked up the Amiga teleprompter software and hardware. Was I'd love to use this at some point, as part of a little production, just to do it like it was done back when these machines were used in TV studios.
Mm-hmm. And with this, so I think in collection you have everything. I heard that even Draco, that I think there was not so popular in USA. I think there was more popular in Europe, I suppose. So you have everything, yeah, every model.
Well, see, Draco, I don't think anyone knew what it was. I think that was sold to TV channels and video production houses. That wasn't really sold to people in houses, so I don't think most people knew, unless you were an Amiga person and you knew Draco, and to a lesser extent, I think the original Draco, the big cube, was actually more interesting, because that was actually closer to Amiga. It was, it actually, from what I understand, on that model, you could actually boot Workbench. The Casablanca is a very locked system. It's like a turnkey. It's almost like a set-top box for doing video editing, and that's pretty much all it does. I think most businesses that purchased this thing, when it became less useful, when new equipment came out that was better, it would probably have just been thrown out.
Yeah, this is
same thing, and the same thing probably with a lot of video toasters. If a video production house bought a video toaster, and for a while NewTek was selling Amigas where the whole Commodore Amiga was covered up. It was just called a video toaster. I think if a video production house bought a video toaster, there's a high chance that just got thrown out when they went on to other equipment.
Yeah, they don't care because they don't know what is it. This is
it's not useful to them anymore.
Of course. So this is the sad story of this. But to make it maybe more happy, I didn't ask you about the plans for the future of the YouTube channel and I don't know, general parties, maybe because in USA there is no like you said, there is no parties, Amiga parties or something, so you can do your own.
Well, the good news is I know I've heard the Amigos podcast guys who are down in West Virginia lamenting that there's nothing, again, being in the Amiga scene, you hear about these things going on in different places, that there's nothing nearby. Who knows? Maybe at some point we get together with them and we throw a hoedown, as it might be called here.
Well, the cool thing is, with the YouTube channel, is like we've been having our own little Amiga parties for since we've had our Amigas. Like we've been doing these things called SIGs, special interest groups, and there's a game SIG where it's like a special branch of our user group where people get together who just like to play games. So I have them at my parents' house. We did a live webcam stream of one 2 weeks ago. And it's just a bunch of friends get together and play old retro games. And now with the YouTube channel, we're reaching a bigger audience and we're meeting new people. And some of those people happen to be in New York. We live in New York City. There's lots of people here and lots of Amiga users. And people are starting to notice the YouTube channel and they're becoming our friends and they're welcome to come to the party. So who knows what these parties could grow into. We're getting, we have a couple new members of our Amiga user group thanks to the YouTube channel. So, if you watch our channel and you're anywhere near New York City, we meet on the first Thursday of every month at 7:30 p.m. And, please hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. And let us know that you're interested, and we would love to have you come and hang out and talk Amiga with us. As far as the future of our YouTube channel, we're just gonna keep doing what we've been doing. We're not gonna make videos just to make videos that we think might be popular. We're just gonna document what we do with our Amigas, because we have to do stuff that we want to do, and we have to do stuff that is fun for us. And as long as we keep it fun, we'll just keep doing new things on the channel. So I want to do a video about those ham mode conversions where I take modern photos and convert them to ham mode, and I want to do a whole thing on DigiView, because DigiView is a piece of hardware and software that I used to use a lot back then, and it's near and dear to my heart, and I want to show people how that software and that technology works, and how I can use it now with modern sensibilities. You don't have to just scan a piece of clip art out of a magazine. You can actually shoot a really cool photograph with it. So I think it's awesome that I have this vacuum tube black and white video camera and this Commodore Amiga computer that can scan the image from it. It just opens up a whole world of creative opportunities. So I want to make videos about that, and there's just so much stuff that I want to do with my Amiga from a graphics and video standpoint that I want to document and put on our YouTube channel. So those are more of the classic videos, and we're just going to do a lot more live streams. The live streams have been really successful and really fun, because it doesn't take that much effort, because you don't have to edit anything. You just you can either just simply play a game and talk about it, or today Anthony showed off his Amiga 1000 collection and talked about it, and it just brings a lot of people in the Amiga community together in one place in real time. So that's really exciting. So I think it's going to be a combination of just creative things that we want to do with our Amiga as a traditional YouTube video, plus these live streams.
Yeah, I love the interactivity in the live streams. I think that's a lot of fun. So I think we'll be doing more of those. And just again, it's these machines are here. They exist. We don't need to worry about what's the new thing, because there's plenty of the old things that we used and loved. So it's why not just keep? We could keep doing that and be more than happy. And if there's a new thing that comes out that we eventually one of us ends up getting, we'll show that too. It's just two sometimes three friends getting together, and if hopefully people enjoy watching us do whatever it is we do.
This sounds good, I must say, because I'm very curious about this modern use of Amiga, and this will be nice to see something like this, because then I can copy this.
Chris, I gotta tell you, it's the most exciting thing for me too, because you can still use the Amiga as an artistic tool. There's, especially now that when I was younger, my art, I wasn't as developed as an artist as I am now, and I just want to apply everything I've learned and and modern techniques that we use in film and photography and see what the Amiga can do, like using these techniques. And it's something it's the most exciting part for me. It's just to take this old machine that I absolutely love and has limitations, and and see what I can get out of it.
And do you think in future there, or maybe there is this trend that you can exactly mix the up-to-date, I don't know, photos and the old computer to post-production of this? So in artistic way, with, I don't know, galleries, you can publish this. So because I think it's not so popular to use the old software or computer to modern work.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, like, for example, like Instagram. I don't know how popular it is in Europe, but here in the United States, it was bought by Facebook, and it's one of the most popular like social media apps out there. And all it's doing is like emulating a classic Polaroid photograph. But like, why emulate the classic Polaroid photograph? Why, when you can actually have the actual hardware that can create the photograph and make it look like that? So to me, that's super exciting. I think there's a huge opportunity there.
Well, I think if you look at it, I mean, how long hasn't the paintbrush changed? Photography has not changed the fact that people still paint paintings with oil on a canvas. I think it's you have this paintbrush called the Amiga that can do things a certain way and things have a certain look. Just like painting with a brush on a canvas has a certain look. I don't think there's nothing less charming and interesting about it just because Photoshop on a Core i7 computer can, with 24-bit graphics can do it a lot better. It's different. It's the same but different. So, I think, why not? Why not? It's a tool.
Yeah.
It's all it is it's a tool, and the tool can still do everything that it did when you bought the tool new. In fact, it can do more than it did when you bought it new, because chances are if you did buy a 1000 in 1986, 87, the software was pretty primitive, as we looked at today. I loaded up a few of the primitive original graphics programs, and you look at the later graphics programs and how much more powerful they were, but that look, because the hardware didn't change that much, the look of the output didn't change. It was your ability to manipulate it and get your sort of idea into it became easier, because the interface became easier. The tools you had in the program for drawing lines and circles became better, but the abilities of the machine didn't change that much. There was only one change, was really AGA. So if you're using OCS or AGA, it's still the same. That output, what it can do is still the same. It's what you put into it. It's your creativity that you throw at it.
Okay, this is true, because I think the people are not thinking in that way, that even old computer is still tool to do some stuff, and
right.
This is a good point of view.
Yeah, the only people who think that way, you have people who still use the Commodore 64 and the SID chip because of that sound it makes. They still, those are the creative people. It's not, there's this thought of there's people who want the computer to be fast and produce things that look realistic, and there's people who see what each computer does as something of beauty in and of itself. It's like, that is the completion. That is the finished product. The finished product is not what the next computer can do. The finished product of the Amiga is what the Amiga can do.
Okay. I think we should start to finish, because it's already 1.5 hours. But there is...
We can do this all day.
Yeah.
I know. But I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
Next time we'll start earlier.
Yeah, next time. it will be nice to make something maybe together in YouTube or somehow.
Sure.
Or why not?
Yeah.
Through the Europe and the States and I don't know somehow. But maybe the last question. This is not my question. This is the question from your friend, and the question is about the re-edition or remakes of the old legendary software, like for example Shadow of the Beast and I think the few months ago the new Shadow of the Beast come to PlayStation. And what do you think about this remakes, like in general? Because I think we get a lot of movies that they are remakes as well. Yeah.
I love the remakes of the old games. I think it's amazing. And the funny thing is, a lot of times the remake is when I look at the remake, I'm like, this is the game. Like, they didn't do anything new. And then I'm like, oh no, this is just how I remember the game. Because the graphics were a little more primitive than I remember, because I used my imagination to fill in the gaps. And the remake fills in those gaps with the modern technology. So, for example, Another World, 25th anniversary or 20th anniversary, it's a remake of Another World, which is a classic Amiga game that I absolutely love, a classic platformer. And the remake kept the original game like almost identical. It just enhanced the sound and the graphics, and made it like a really nice experience to play on a tablet or on a PC. So I am like 100% in favor of the remakes of the classic games. Shadow of the Beast is a new game that captures the flavor and the essence of the original Shadow of the Beast extremely well. I absolutely love playing the new Shadow of the Beast. It's interesting because like that game was clearly made for someone like us who played the original Shadow of the Beast, because it draws so much on like the original lore and the original characters. Whereas if you're a young person today playing the new Shadow of the Beast for the first time, you might not appreciate it. You certainly won't appreciate it as much as guys like us do, who grew up with the original Shadow of the Beast and understand like what a legendary game it was, and how it was the first game to use parallax scrolling, and the sound, the music, and the graphics were just stunning at the time. But I love what they did with the new Shadow of the Beast. I had an absolute blast playing it. It's definitely like an indie game. You can tell the guys put their hearts and souls into it. It's a shorter game, but that's fine, because what there is of the game, it's just super fun, and it's a great way to keep the games alive. You know, remaking movies to me is like a whole nother thing. It's so funny, because I'm not as crazy about movie remakes as I am about game remakes. I think some movies should just stay classics because they're a classic piece of art themselves, whereas some of the modern games, you know, like when they were designing the games back in the day, they really wanted to do more. They just couldn't, because they were limited by the technology. And now that the technology exists, they can go back and make the game the way they originally intended to. So that could be part of it. But you know, I'm open to all remakes, whether it's a game or a movie. I tend to prefer the remakes of modern games over the remakes of modern movies. I know one of my all-time favorites, Blade Runner, is coming out with a remake, and that's it's a hard pill for me to swallow, because Blade Runner is a perfect movie and it doesn't need to be remade. But you know, they do have my favorite cinematographer, Roger Deakins, shooting it, and I know Ridley Scott is behind it, and Harrison Ford is in full support of Ryan Gosling as the star, who is an actor I like very much. So hopefully it comes out all right. But you know, I wouldn't necessarily, you know, want to go out and remake Blade Runner. I think Hollywood is just out of ideas in some ways, and they're just trying to like rehash things that they know worked. But I'm all for the modern games. I love the new Shadow of the Beast. It's awesome. Yeah,
I definitely think there's some lack of creativity in some of the remaking, certainly on the movie side more than on the game side. Ghostbusters remake. Let me just put that out there. Drop the mic, done. That pretty much ends the discussion on movie remakes. Horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. Not nearly as funny as the original. And you sit there and wonder, like, why? Why?
For money.
Money, exactly. It's money. I don't have the creativity to come up with something new, come up with a new idea. Let me grab this old idea, put it in a new wrapper, and we'll make a mint because people who loved the old one, it was very popular. So if we get a percentage of them, and I'm sure there's an accountant sitting there going, okay, this is the number, this is the popularity of that one, so that's our number. If we get X percent of those people, this is what we'll pull in. If it costs us this, we've already made this. Okay, bing. I'm sure it's a completely economic decision, not an artistic decision. And I think it's a little different with games. I think the remakes of games that we've seen, a lot of times, a lot of thought is put into, like, how am I adding to this? What am I adding to, because it's not something that just happens in front of a camera. You have to build all of this. So even if you just take a game, you take the graphics, you go, okay, we have much better hardware now. This was done based on these limitations. We can do so much more. Let's put the more in and see what comes out. I think it's a totally different animal, and I have a lot more respect. And I'm sure the work put into those is a lot more. I love kind of seeing I loved seeing the new Shadow of the Beast, the new Gauntlet game.
Wings remastered. Classic Cinemaware game.
Yeah. Rise of the Triad. That when they came out with Alien Breed, one of the limitations of the Amiga is that joystick, which inherently you use it in both hands. So Alien Breed, the original on the Amiga, which is a great game, you kind of shoot the direction you're facing. And when they came out with it, you could play it on the iPad. First of all, you immediately had this greater ability because you could stand in a bus stop playing Alien Breed. Now, that in and of itself is pretty awesome. But then, because the controls on an iPad you could have where you could move one direction, fire in another, because you basically, with the virtual controls, so they didn't just take Alien Breed, throw it on the iPad, and it's all done. They reworked it, so now with this new control scheme, it took the game and made it almost a whole different game, because now it was almost a lot more enjoyable, and a lot more playable, because of the fact even just adding that little tiny bit that you could move in one direction, fire in another. I think just opened the whole game up. Like I said, I'm kind of a little bit mixed on remakes, but on a whole, as far as great Amiga games, we've seen great remakes.
Good. Thanks. So I have one more question from Konrad. Sorry, but short.
No apologies.
Because
we'll lengthen it for you.
Because Bill is asked about the live stream from the, I don't know, this Polish group Plastic, the game for the console, I don't know, my God, Linger in Shadow, that
sure.
Natura?
PS3.
Yeah, so he asking me where will be this streaming.
Okay, so yeah, Conrad is very excited for me to stream some games from the Polish Amiga demo scene group Plastic. And the reason why I haven't streamed Linger in Shadows yet is because it's completely a technical reason. Linger in Shadows is a PS3 game, and when you output video from the PS3 over the HDMI port, it has something called HDCP, which is the copy protection, and you can't turn that off on the PS3. You can turn it off on Xbox One, you can turn it off on PS4. You can't turn it off on PS3, and that makes it very difficult to stream. I'm not going to go into all the details, but because of the copy protection, streaming from the PS3 is extremely uncommon and difficult. So that's why I haven't streamed Linger in Shadows yet. However, I think I've cracked the code on it, and I'll be able to stream it. But the same group, the demo scene group from Poland, Plastic, they have a brand new game out, and they are friends with some of the guys at AmiPart. The game is called Bound.
I haven't heard of either of these.
Bound looks absolutely gorgeous. It looks kind of like another great PS4 game called Journey. In Bound, you're like a dancer, and you dance through all these incredible environments. I don't know how else to describe it. I've bought Bound, and I was actually going to do a stream on it, like maybe even a month ago when I first bought it. But Bound is also designed for PlayStation VR. And PlayStation VR is something I'm going to get, and it's coming out very soon. So I said, you know what? I'm going to wait. I'm not going to play Bound. I want to play it live on stream, so all my reactions are immediate. And I also want to play it using PlayStation VR. I don't want to just look at the screen. I want to experience it through the PlayStation VR, which I think is the way the plastic guys intended it. So as soon as I get my PlayStation VR, I'll be streaming some Bound.
Okay, good.
My latest PlayStation is a PlayStation 1. So.
First and the late. In the US, the Nintendo is very popular. So you are not using it at all?
I don't think Nintendo, not so much anymore. Really, what's popular is Xbox One and PlayStation 4. I kind of like to be on the latter end of the wave. So I picked up a PlayStation 1 well after I think the 2 was out. So you can buy a game that was $60 for $10, and I picked it up mainly from Namco Arcade. They have some great old arcade games on the Namco Arcade for PlayStation 1. Then I got the Nintendo Wii, and I used that for a long time. I actually still have it because they got some great exercise games and things. And then I got a Xbox 360 basically after Xbox One was out, so you can get a 360 for really cheap. And I think it's the first time with the old systems, you're in your little microcosm. Because you get it, the games are all brand new to you. You play them, they're a lot of fun. They're just as much fun as they were when they were $60, but they're $10, and they're new to you. The 360 is the first time I really saw that you lose something now because these are connected systems by being behind on them, because everyone has played. A lot of these games have a big online component, and by the time you get it, when a brand new system is out and everyone's moving to the new system, you're kind of all alone on the old system. So I think I'm gonna accelerate my system purchases, and I think Bill has kind of convinced me of that with his live streaming of some of the games that he plays with Amiga friends on like his PS4 and his Xbox One.
Yeah, and getting back to Nintendo though, I think the modern Nintendo isn't quite as popular. I do know Super Mario Maker is pretty popular, but it's not. It's small potatoes compared to Xbox and PlayStation. Yeah. But when you think of retro,
Wii U's never had a big pickup here.
But when you think of retro, like the first system to come to everyone's mind is NES, because that's what a lot of the kids, well, a lot of the adults today that were kids, that was their first console was the NES or the Super NES. So when they have like retro expos here and retro game events, Nintendo is pretty much the centerpiece of that.
Yeah, for retro, it's pretty much all Atari and Nintendo and a little bit of Sega, and then for modern, it's all Xbox and Sony PlayStation.
Okay, interesting. I suppose that Nintendo is much more powerful in US, but sadly not. Maybe
except for Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
Pokemon Go is very popular for a month.
This is everywhere. Okay, I think now I should ask the last question, because really, I can add one more and one more. So this should be the last one. And how do you find the time for everything? Because I know it's hard. I'm only making the podcast, so this is without video, so audio, and it's hard. And then if you want to write something or something like this, like I'm doing, and with this streaming, YouTube and so on, how you can find, and then you should play somehow with your Amiga, yeah? So how to find the time on how it's done and what the family says about this?
It's very, very challenging. It takes a lot of time. I think the key is just to have like a streamlined process. So for the streaming, I have my office set up where all I have to do is flip a couple of switches and boom, I'm up and running on the streaming. So it took a bit of groundwork to figure out how to make it streamlined, but now it's pretty streamlined. So I can just go into my office, flip a couple of switches, and I'm up and running with the stream. Making the videos, like a traditional YouTube video like we started doing, takes a lot of time, and there's no way around it. It's just because I'm pretty good with the video editing, I can get to the point pretty quick. So I just rely on my experience to try and make it as streamlined a process as possible. But it still takes a long time, and the bottom line is you just have to be dedicated to it, and you have to love it because it's your hobby. It's fun. So when you're not at work, when you're not spending time with your family, it's like I'm gonna edit this YouTube video because it takes that long. Like for example, my AmiPart video, it probably took me 50 hours to edit it. It was a tremendous effort.
And how long were you at the Ami party?
And I was at Ami party for 3 days, so it was it was definitely a nice chunk of time. But I'm lucky where I have I'm essentially I own my own business and I can work when I want, and when I'm not working I can do what I want. So I have periods of time where it's just 100% focused on my job and I can't do anything else. But then when I'm not working, I can be 100% focused on my hobby. And that's what allows me to be able to do this. And I just make it my priority. It's something that I love to do. And there's only 24, everyone has 24 hours in a day. And, it's up to you to choose what you do with those 24 hours.
Yeah,
and I choose to.
Yeah, you can always go by plane and then different time zones.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been tempted to get on a plane and just keep circling the Earth as the sun was, so the day never changes. I think that might help, but yeah, it's. I mean, it's not easy. It's very easy to go, weeks and weeks, because there's always something. There's always something in the family. People get older. There's more, things you end up having to do, for family, for friends, to deal with different things that happen in people's lives, and it's easy to, you get home from work. I don't have the job Bill has. I work, 5 days a week. So you get home from work, you just don't really want to do anything. You just want to sit and stare at a wall. It would be perfectly happy. It doesn't even have to have a TV on it sometimes. You can just stare at a blank wall and you're perfectly happy. You're just totally, your brain is just totally shot. It's like you have to find something to drive you. To say look, I'm not just going to sit and stare at a wall. I got this thing. I got to get these Amiga 1000s out so we can do our thing on Saturday. I'm going to do it because I like it. And, as you get into it, you're like, I'm glad I spent the time that way. I think it's just, it's just, like I said I think Bill originally sent to me a long time ago when sometimes I'd take a day off from work and we'd go bike riding. He sent me this little post someone had, I think, on their forum signature was like, a day you don't ride is a day you'll never ride, a day you don't work is a day you'll never have to work. It's kind of the day you don't do the stuff you love is a day that you're never going to have done the stuff you love. You gotta just try to find the time, squeeze it in there, and find those places where you're kind of not doing anything. You're a little listless, trying to figure out what to do, and here's something to do. Here's something to do that you could make a connection with somebody. You can make a connection with something you love, and you can make a connection with your own past.
I think now we should finish. So maybe not the last question, but the last sentence from me. So what you can say to the guys from New York, for Amiga guys, I mean, and worldwide?
We can say that, to the Amiga guys from New York, hit us up on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram and come to one of our Westchester Amiga user group meetings. We're always looking to meet new people, and it's just we meet on the first Thursday of every month in White Plains, New York, and all are welcome, and we're always looking to meet new Amiga users. So please come and see us.
Right, come see us, email us, post, message, whatever. If you have something cool, going on, feel free to let us know. Look, sometimes some of us go all the way to Poland for a good Amiga scene. So who knows? Maybe we'll be able to show up and say hi. We'll add you to the list of potential future trips, just because like I said, I think the things in life aren't as important as the experiences, and the Amiga is a great thing to create experiences. So it's something that connects people like us who are interested in it, and it can maybe get an actual connection where we actually go somewhere, or someone decides to come to New York.
Maybe I will visit you.
Yeah. Everyone is always welcome.
Awesome.
Yeah, anyone who wants to visit New York, man, we will welcome you with open Amiga arms.
Right.
And my Polish wife is an excellent cook.
I'm good too, so I can.
Oh, good.
Something,
right.
Yeah.
Sweet.
But I can bring. I'm living in Germany, but I can organize this. I can bring the krupnik with me.
Bring the krupnik.
I don't know if I can, because this is you cannot put stuff in US, from Europe.
Yeah.
No, you can. You
have 2 liters. You're allowed to 2 liters worth. I think
it's 2 or 1. I don't know, but I brought back a bottle of cachaça from Brazil. Yeah, I mean, as long as you're below the amount, you're allowed.
Okay, guys, thank you for your time. This was the pleasure for me to talk with you. And good luck at your great job. And to the next time.
Yep.
Good stuff. Yeah, thank you so much for having us on the show. We're huge fans of AMIcast, and we wish you all the best. And keep up the great work on your end as well.
Yeah, and keep having fun with it. That's the main thing, is just keep having fun doing it and enjoying it.
Okay, thank you, and till next time.
Bye.
Do widzenia.
Do widzenia. It was AMIcast, podcast for all Amiga users.